Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're a new subscriber, welcome to my channel. My name is Alicia, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a story time. I'm going to be telling you guys how my first clinical went and basically tips that I have for you guys, and basically tips that I have for nursing students. So if you're going to be starting nursing school next semester, congratulations. Just going to be giving some tips out there because these are some stuff that I noticed and stuff like that. So if you want to know more on this story time, then please keep on watching. Okay, so last week I had my first clinical at the nursing home. So the first 3 weeks of the semester we were in our school campus, and those 3 weeks we basically just went over guidelines, what we should be expecting once we start doing clinical at the nursing home, stuff like that, like nutrition, things like that. So that's how the first 3 weeks of the semester went. Last week, like how I told you guys, it was our first week ever being at the nursing home. So we got there at our nursing home. We have to be there at 7 o'clock, literally on the dot. So we were there, you know, far away from campus, and then the nursing home was like 20 more minutes than what I always drive. It usually takes me around 30 to 35 minutes to get to campus, which is not a lot, but you know, it's super early in the morning, and for some reason I'm thinking, oh, there's gonna be traffic, oh, there's gonna be that. But you know, I leave my house like around 6:05, and then I was just like, okay, so it's going to be a couple minutes more than when I drive to campus. I got there was no traffic, none of that, so I was just like, thank God. We'll see how it is tomorrow. But I got there super early. I think I got there like around 6:30, and you know, I parked where we're supposed to be parked. Our instructor told us where we were supposed to park and where we weren't allowed to park. I basically just parked, and then I saw also RN students. So in the nursing home that we are at doing clinicals, there are also first semester RN students there doing their clinicals, which was quite exciting because, you know, I feel like it really keeps you motivated on like me starting the RN program and stuff like that. There was also another student that did my clinical that was also like super happy because he was like, oh, one day I'm gonna be those RN students. Okay, so basically we started, clinical started, and you know, we were in a room, a conference room. Our instructor went over like who we were gonna be partnered with, you know, us just being like I think this is how it's going to be for like the rest of the semester. We are going to be partnered up with someone else, and basically we're just going to be partners. We're going to be doing tasks together and stuff like that. We also were paired with a CNA. Props to the CNAs because they literally have to do a lot, and us helping them was literally a blessing to them, just because they have so much patience and they're literally running up and down, and you can't find them and stuff like that. So props to those who are working as a CNA. So basically we got partnered with our CNA. We greeted her. She was really nice, and then, you know, the first 5 minutes of me being on the floor is when I got assigned to my first patient. So I think we had a total of 4 rooms that we were assigned to. Like literally the rooms that I got to, I think there was only like 3 patients. I think we got assigned to 5 rooms. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have my notebook for me to check. But basically we were assigned to 5 rooms, and you know, every room has 2 patients. So basically like how the rooms are set up is there's 2 patients per room, and you know, when we got there, some patients were already out of the room. They were basically eating in the dining room. They had appointments, stuff like that. So I didn't really get to experience having 10 patients that day. So I was on the floor, and then the CNA told me, oh, you have to go feed this patient. So we weren't really taught how to feed patients in lab. Like they just basically showed us a video, and they're like, oh, that's how you feed a patient. And you know, and I know people out there probably gonna be like, well, if you know how to feed yourself, how wouldn't you know how to feed other people? But it's really difficult because out there that you're going to be feeding or you're going to be changing, they're gonna have different they're just basically going to be different. They have different diseases. Some can walk, some are stiff, some have had strokes, some are paralyzed, stuff like that. So I got to feed my first patient, and you know, that patient couldn't, the hall that I was placed in, all those patients couldn't really talk, so it was a quiet hall. That's how our clinical instructor told us. You guys are going to be placed in the quiet hall. So basically I got to feed this patient, and you know, after I finished feeding her, I guess she ate all her food, which was really well, and we had to tell our CNA like how much they ate and stuff like that. So basically, by the time I was done feeding my first patient, I was looking out for my CNA, because basically once I was on the floor, me and my partner got separated. She ended up going somewhere else, and then I didn't see her. And then by the time I was done feeding my first patient, she was basically feeding someone else. So then I was looking for my CNA, and she was nowhere to be found. So I just basically told my partner like, oh, where's the CNA? And she was like, oh, she's not here. I think she went to go on a break or something. She was like in a different hallway. I don't really remember. So I was just like, okay, then what do I do next? Because like, you know, it's a first day. Like, we don't really we are basically only allowed to do what is on our skills checklist. So whatever's checked off from our lab is what we are allowed to do in clinical. If that task is not checked off, then we aren't allowed to do it, even if the CNAs want us to do it and stuff like that, but they don't want us to do it. So basically what I was doing was I was just running around trying to see if I could find other students that are also in my clinical and see if they needed any help. So I was just helping them, you know, picking up trays, stuff like that, asking them if they need anything. You know, once you go in a room, you literally have to knock, and then you have to greet yourself, telling them like who you are, basically your name, and that you're a nursing assistant in training, and if they basically need any help, if they need anything, stuff like that. So that's how I was for like the first, I think it was for the first hour. By then my CNA showed up. So basically once my CNA showed up, she had us in the rooms, we had to change briefs, we had to move patients, put them in wheelchairs, we had to change their gowns, you know, comb their hair, stuff like that. Okay, this is like the good part. So basically once we were done with our first patient, changing her and like stuff like that, putting her on the floor so she can have her medication and stuff like that, since that was like on her schedule. So basically once we were done out of the room, we run into some RN students. So these RN students, it's also the first day in clinical. So how do I put this? So it was the first day on clinical, it was the first day on the floor. So I know they're quite nervous, because I was quite nervous also. I don't know if you guys saw from my vlog that I explained that I was nervous the first couple hours, and I was just basically scared. So I feel like that's how the RN students felt. I feel like they were scared. They didn't really know what to do. So I don't know how it is in nursing school. I'm not in nursing school, so I can't really say much. But we got into the room, and there was 4 students. They were RN students, and they wanted to, I guess, do some vital signs for this patient. So the CNA comes, and then we were behind her because we were going to change the patients that the RN students had. We were basically just going to change her gown, change her brief, stuff like that. The RN students were in the room, and they basically just did not know what they were doing. So basically they were like, oh, we're trying to do take some vital signs, but we don't know how to interact with this patient. So I don't know if I feel like RN students, they do tell them what patients are gonna get, what they have, stuff like that, like a day before clinical, and you know, they have to do like those care plans, stuff like that. So once they come into clinical, they know what medications they're gonna give them, stuff like that. I feel like they already knew they basically knew who their patients were, what they had, and stuff like that. So they basically just did not know. They kept asking the CNA like, oh, we have to take vital signs, but we don't know how to tell her. So basically just the CNA ended up just talking to them, and then we were just out of the room. So basically the RN students were clueless. Like, they had no clue what they were doing. They did not know how to greet patients, none of that. They just basically looked scared. So I was just like, okay, I don't know if those RN students have never been taught how to greet patients, how to basically not be afraid of patients. So I was just like, okay. Also did like a shower, and you know, I was running around also helping other students, doing things out of my comfort zone that I have never done before, you know, seeing different patients. I basically just was everywhere. I just basically just wanted to learn. I just did not want to be just standing there around not doing nothing. So basically lunchtime came around. We went to lunch. We had 30 minutes to go to lunch. We came back and it was time to pass trays. So basically the RN students, I think they also came back from lunch. So I'm guessing their clinical also started from 7 o'clock to 1:50. I'm not 100% sure because I do not know their schedule, but I feel like that's how it was because they ended up leaving a couple minutes before we did. I think it was like 20 to 30 minutes before we did. So basically it was time to pass trays, and you know, if you are a CNA or you're going to be a CNA, basically trays are basically the patient's food, stuff like that. It has your name and stuff like that. We have to go into each patient's room and give them the trays, ask them if they need anything, if we need to cut up their food, if they need water, if they want something else, if they didn't like something on their tray, we have to go to the kitchen, stuff like that. We're basically just running back and forth on passing trays. So the RN students were just standing there. They were asking the CNA what they can do to help. So as you know, CNAs, they were just taking advantage of having so many students for them just to help out, which I don't really mind. I did have a CNA. She was telling me to pass trays. I was passing trays. There was RN students in the dining room. I think I only saw 2 RN students in the dining room, feeding patients. And then there was like a total of 4 students also just up against the wall. They were afraid to pass trays. It's not that I'm bashing the RN students, but it's just basically things that I saw that I feel like if you're going to be in nursing school, just for you to be aware of. So I'm just like in no mind bashing anyone. So basically me and my partner went back to the hallway that we were assigned to, and we were also passing trays. And next thing you know, my partner comes up to me and she tells me, oh, there was an RN student that passed a tray to one of our patients and basically just left the lid on the food and probably expected the patient to eat. But basically expected the patient for them to eat. There are certain patients where they can't really eat by themselves. They need help from others. So that they need basically someone else to feed them. I guess she ended up going to get water for this certain patient. By the time she came back, the RN student was gone. The tray was open, and you know, us being CNAs, we aren't not allowed to leave the trays open if we have to feed someone, just because you know their food can get cold, and we don't want them to basically eat their food cold, if that makes sense, because nobody likes cold food. So basically she told me that the RN student just disappeared. It didn't want to feed the patient, probably because she was going home in like 15 to 20 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes, which I would understand, but like, don't you just want to be with a patient, if that makes sense? She basically just ended up leaving, and then basically just ended up leaving. So I just took that into consideration. I was just like, you're an RN student. I know you guys don't really do like you guys don't really do like bedside. It's mostly more like doing medication, stuff like that, but you still have to interact with your patients. You still have to ask them like how they're doing. You of course have to greet yourself before you go into the room. But I feel like for me, seeing all like everything that happened that day in clinical, I was just like, I'm just going to just take it in, learn from it, and once I start nursing school, I won't look afraid. Because literally, you guys, there was also other students that pointed it out. It was just not me that pointed it out. Like, it wasn't just me that pointed it out. Our clinical instructor also pointed it out. Like, other students, they were talking about it, and they were like, oh my god, those RN students look afraid. They look like they just don't want to talk to, they basically just don't want to touch patients. Like, they're afraid to touch patients. I feel like nursing schools just expect expect you to have healthcare experience before going into nursing school, but there are students out there that really don't have any healthcare experience. But for some reason I feel like nursing schools expect you to have the healthcare experience. So once you start your first semester of clinicals, they just throw you on the floor and they basically expect you to know what you're doing. I feel like that's how it was for those first semester RN students that were also at the nursing home, because they literally looked clueless. They didn't know what they were doing. They were basically afraid to touch patients. They didn't know how to interact with patients. I did not see no nurse in there, like an RN nurse in there. They were basically just by themselves. They were basically expected to know how to do stuff. I don't know if they were allowed to administer medication yet. I have no clue, but I think they were just doing vital signs and basically what their care plan was for that certain patient. Because literally me being in that clinical that whole entire day, I did not see no registered nurse. I probably just confused them with the LPNs, because there was also LPNs there also, and basically there was also some LPNs in there also. So like, if you are going to be going into nursing school next semester or like in the future, just know to not be afraid to touch patients, because I feel like once you're in nursing school, you're doing clinicals and stuff like that, you want to make sure you get as much hands-on as possible, just because once you're in the real world by yourself, you're basically not going to have partners by you. You're not going to have another registered nurse telling you what to do, stuff like that. I'm just telling you guys this. I'm not bashing them or anything, but it's just for you guys to basically know what you're going to be doing, and if you can't get healthcare experience, I would recommend for you guys to get healthcare experience before starting nursing school, stuff like that. So once you go into nursing school, you kind of know what you're doing. You're not afraid to touch patients. You're not afraid to interact with patients, stuff like that. Because I know nursing school is hard and like you guys have like other things to worry about, but you know, also just don't be afraid to talk to patients or to touch them, because you know, that's what being a part of nursing is. You're going to be touching patients. You're going to be interacting with them. Sometimes you are not going to be able to. Sometimes you're going to have patients where they can't talk back to you, and either way, if they can't talk back to you, you're still interacting with them. They probably won't be able to interact with you, but in their mind, they probably are able to listen and are able to know what you are doing to them, stuff like that. But yeah, so that's basically how my clinical experience went. It went really, really well. Tomorrow I do have my second clinical, and I'm quite excited because you're going to be placed on a different floor, which I'm quite excited about, because you're going to be getting different patients, different experiences, more hands-on, which I love doing more hands-on than basically just not doing anything. But yeah, basically it. Don't forget to like this video, of course, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, follow me on my Instagram, stuff like that. Comment down below video suggestions, videos that you would want to see. But yeah, that's basically it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, you guys.